Seagulls swoop in, make a lot of noise, take what they want, and swoop out. There's a certain level of chaos that accompanies their activity. Some of the people that we've labeled as influencers could be likened to seagulls. They too fly in, make a bunch of noise, and fly out. What they also have in common is what they leave behind. It's not all that memorable. The difference is that seagulls don't count the number of likes they get, where influencers seem to require that recognition to claim their title. Clearly, not all influencers can be found online. We're influenced, in fact, by people in authority from a very, very early age. Some provide education, some provide entertainment, and some instill fear and doubt, like that scary 5th grade teacher. Think back to the people who hung off of trains or cliffs to get that perfect picture. Or those who started the cinnamon challenge, like the pet rock of the 70s. A lot of attention was given to it then. But its legacy is questionable. When I was in the 5th grade, my parents took me with them to the school's open house. I always dreaded that evening. Dad would dress in a suit, Mom would wear her fine dress and her special perfume. That's not why I dreaded the evening. It was that as kids, we'd have to display what we'd worked on for the year to that point. I was intuitive and bright, and I caught on quickly, but I wasn't applauded for that. In fact, I thought something was wrong with me when, after conferring with my parents, my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Finley, cackled from above me.
You're just not living into your potential.
Yeah, that felt like a condemnation. I felt alone as a 10-year-old boy. And then what followed was my father's,
"What's holding you back?"
He didn't sound like he wanted to help. His voice was one of trying to find the defect. I felt bad, wrong, and stupid, and now I had to find what was holding me back. What's the right answer to a question like that? In that moment, the powerful influencers in my life, they had an opportunity. They could swoop in like seagulls, leave their perception of their judgment of some limitation, or they could glide in and leave a lasting legacy, which is how I define significance. And positive would be a key word here. Sure, my parents and Mrs. Finley probably had a perspective that was valuable. Maybe, just maybe, they saw something in me that I couldn't have seen. Not a 10. What would have been the difference in my growth and development if instead of leaving some declaration or proclamation of what sounded like an ultimate truth?
You're just not living into your potential.
Yeah. What if instead they had sought to expand my perception of myself, choosing to lift me up deliberately, actively, positively, would have sounded more like,
Wayne, you can do, have, or be anything.
we're all exposed to the parenting style we luck into. We grow up and we get through the influence imposed upon us. We've each probably held on to that influence for far too long, from very early on. We were given rules that have turned into voices in our heads. Those voices remain. In many ways, these voices were the voices of authority. And in many ways, we become that voice for others. We influence others on a daily basis, which is why being conscious of this and choosing to be deliberate, active, and positive is so important. Moving from influence, which is unconsciously swooping in, to what I call outfluence, an act of consciously and deliberately lifting others, is what creates a lasting legacy. Any of us can choose to influence positively. Any of us can become an outfluencer. Outfluencers know where they've been and the impact they've had. As outfluencers, we take stock of where we are. And we look ahead and we create the future and we create clarity around where we're heading. We let go of old stories and the limitations that were imposed upon us and that many of us have accepted along the way. And we engage and step into new ways of engaging in the world. Decide who you want to become. Determine the values you need to step in to become that purpose, that person. It is with purpose. This is another part of the path of the outfluencer. Someone who creates a lasting legacy does so consciously. Mother Teresa and Gandhi, for example, didn't create their lasting legacies accidentally. Think about others who have created their legacy. Being deliberate is subtle. It implies a new way. It implies that you apply. It implies a consciousness that you apply to every interaction you have. Every interaction. From the grocery store clerk, to your team members at work, to your family members at home. Be deliberately, actively, positively uplifting. When the voices you hear inspire you to be more, to do, have, and be anything, you can. And you need to remember that you can be that voice for others as well. You can step in to be the inspiring voice. to allow others to do, have, and be anything. When you lift others deliberately, actively, and positively, you create a lasting legacy. Creating your lasting legacy deliberately, actively, positively. That's significance. Thank you.